Welcome, everybody. We're excited to get going today. We're going to be talking about a very meaningful topic. It's how Prose delivers high-value customer experiences for the modern beauty consumer. Now, we will be focusing specifically on Prose, and we've got a great guest, and we'll introduce her in just a minute, but so many applicable lessons across the board as we think about driving great customer experience. So, as always, you've got myself. I'm Gabe Larson. I'm the Vice President of Growth here at Kustomer, and Kustomer is an omni-channel customer service platform that helps you reimagine the customer experience. And we have our special guest, Aaron Garrity, who is the Director of Customer Service at Prose. Aaron, can you take just a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do over there at Prose?
Yeah, hi everyone. Like Gabe said, I'm Erin Garrity. I'm the Director of Customer Service at Prose. We're a custom hair care company. So that means my team of custom hair care experts help kind of guide our customer through every touch point of their hair care journey.
I love that. I love that. I feel like that's a trend, Aaron. It's the hair care experts. It's not necessarily the customer service agents or representatives. It's about something different. We'll dive into that today. So with that, let's dive into this. I wanted to kind of set the stage and see if I could kind of paint the picture, some of the trends going on in the market, and then we want to bring Erin in and get her feedback on how that's translating specifically in her business. So I'll start high level and talk a little bit about the expectation shifting. This kind of interesting thing we're seeing between customer service and brand loyalty. And then, as I said, we'll dive a little bit more into probably what you want to hear mostly, which is how is kind of a modern day company looking at customer service differently, and especially this idea of personalization. So let's dive in and go number one. The modern day beauty customer expects from companies they do business with this kind of expectation component. So this is an interesting one, and Aaron, it'll be fun to maybe get your quick talk track on this, but one of the biggest developments we're seeing is how customers expect to interact. They're not really thinking of brand relations as simply transactional. They're shopping with companies because truthfully, they believe in their mission. They feel like shopping with them is part of their identity, and they want to really build relationships with these brands. But it is a give and a take. They expect to have conversation relationships with brands. They want to give feedback, and the company needs to be able to take that feedback and actually do something with it. The customer wants to be personalized, a relationship, and the brand needs to see if they can find a way to ultimately deliver that experience. That's not all, though. We've seen that in some of the surveys, but truthfully, there's other trends that are going on in this concept of the digital age. It really is transforming what customers expect from brands they do business with. It's all about, I love that first one. It's all about instant gratification. We're the generation of instant gratification. We expect things real time, and it's not just during business hours. I think it's all times of the day. And so if you're not managing around that, you're probably putting yourself in an interesting place. Couple points I want to highlight here. Being present on every channel, especially for retailers, is imperative. 88% of customers say they get frustrated when they can't contact a company on a channel that they prefer. But it's not just being omni-channel. This idea of cross-channel, a lot of customers are finding themselves starting conversations on one channel and then switching to another channel, but still wanting to not skip a beat, experience that kind of great customer experience throughout the entire journey. In addition, there is something about knowing this problem when it starts. 66% of consumers expect customer service agents to know the problem they are inquiring about as soon as they know their name. That puts something at a different place. You have to have full context. You need the customer history right at that agent's or consultant's fingertips so that they can provide that type of instant gratification, as we said today. So these are some of the things that we think retailers must be aware of and really treat customers accordingly. Aaron, I wanted to get your thoughts on just a couple of these points. Been reading a couple different things about during business hours versus after business hours. Um, what has been kind of your guys' experience on that? Most of your traffic happens kind of between 9 to 5, or is it, Gabe, look, it's a 24-hour shop and we got to manage around that?
Yeah, it's definitely a 24-hour business. People expect support to be available at any time, whether it's, on social media or in a text message or an email. And so we've definitely had to figure out how to manage around that and make sure that we have people available, not maybe 24 hours, but available when our customers want to talk to us.
Interesting. And guys, I do want this to be interactive. I'm seeing a couple of questions. I forgot to mention that. We've got one that just came in from Tom. I think this one's interesting. Retailers, I think, debate the channels that are most popular, most used. And you may be touching on this a little later, but what is the predominant channel for you? When it is it true kind of omni-channel, or is there one that kind of sticks out that most of your customers and prospects are using?
Yeah, I would say there's two for us that work both well for us and for our customers. So email is, I think, a really strong channel for us. It's kind of a traditional customer service or support channel, but something that's been really successful for our team is SMS or texting. That allows customers to get an answer really quickly in a way that email doesn't necessarily allow for. It feels like a much more casual conversation with a lot of back and forth, more like you're texting a friend than anything else. So that's been kind of a secondary channel that's been incredibly successful for us.
And are you finding that people are doing channel switching? And if so, how do you think about managing that?
Yeah, I mean, people kind of come at us from all angles, that's for sure. The thing that, kind of brought us to customer in general was this idea of omni-channel support. So it helps us to shift very easily from an email interaction to an SMS interaction without losing that history or having to have a customer explain what the issue is. It's really a seamless transition for both the customer and for our team too.
So interesting. Do you feel like, I mean, it's probably a little bit of a before and after, but how big of a difference is it to be able to kind of manage that channel switching a little more effectively? Was it that big of a deal, or is it like, no, Gabe, that is, we got to find a way to kind of meet the customer where they are?
I would say before having the ability, I didn't know quite how important it was. After being able to have our customers switch back and forth, I would say, oh yeah, absolutely, that is a huge game changer. It prevents just so much duplicate work and also a poor experience for people. It's, yeah, a huge game changer for us.
Yeah, I wondered, you kind of, that's so insightful. It's like, well, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, but ultimately it has been a big deal.
Yeah.
Let me draw out a couple of stats, and then I want to get your opinion on one other thing here, Aaron. So this one, I always find it fascinating. 67% of customers expect retailers to know them and to personalize how they interact. This one, 78% of consumers expect online and in-store retailers to treat them the same way. This one, I feel like, kind of jumped out to me. It's like, okay, so while our interactions with brands are moving more and more towards the digital realm, really, consumers still want to have that one-on-one, and they want it to be the same as it is, as if it's person to person, kind of the way you experience it in like a regular store. So ultimately, customers expect, they say they want to have this kind of experience with the brand. They want to have it better than they normally have it. Flipping it over to you, Aaron, do you maybe want to briefly discuss how Prose is implementing some of these ideas with your customization model?
Yeah, absolutely. Customization is kind of at the core of everything that we do at Prose. we, like I said before, are a customized hair care company. So a customer comes to our site and immediately is given the opportunity to fill out an online consultation that asks really comprehensive questions about their hair and their scalp needs. It's about 25 questions in total, and we go really in depth from everything. We ask about your scalp, your hair, your environmental aggressors, so pollution levels, kind of water hardness, your exercise and diet habits, which are things that no other hair care company is looking at. And the result is kind of 135 different factors that we take to develop a completely unique formula or blend of ingredients for you. So that was all kind of built in-house and is proprietary. It was built by our CTO, Nico Musat, and it really is delivering a completely customized experience. We like to say that we wouldn't exist without you, the customer, and it's true. A formula doesn't exist for you until you come on our site and start filling out our consultation.
Got it. So, but that ability then is really what helps you establish the relationship in probably a way that, well, even, an in-person retailer would have a hard time doing. These types of questions allow you to have a real meaningful experience once you actually start interacting with the person post consultation form, correct?
Yeah, exactly. From the beginning, a customer has a really high level of trust with us. And then it's up to us to continue to deliver on that throughout the experience.
Yeah, do you find, one of the problems I feel like, and I'm just using myself as a shopper here, sometimes I feel like I will go to an in-person retailer and they may ask me a couple questions, but that information quickly falls by the wayside. I go look at a couple other items or I come back to them and they've either forgotten it, they aren't able to kind of bring it into the continued talk track. How have you guys been able to take that information and continually bring it into the conversation so that you keep that customized experience throughout the process?
Yeah, I think we're definitely at an advantage over, in-person retail. If I ask you a question in person, I have to remember it. Luckily, my team has some really cool resources at their fingertips. So something that's worked really well for us with customer in particular is we've been able to pull in all of the information that our customers are telling us about themselves. So we know when we're talking to someone how they have, rated their, ends. Are they dry? Are they not dry? We know if they have an oily scalp or maybe an itchy scalp. And it really helps us to guide the conversation in a thoughtful way.
Interesting. Yeah, I might need to go fill out the survey. I've had kind of an itchy scalp lately. Maybe I can go get.
We can talk
Um,
later.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, let's continue on here. So, next point we wanted to jump into was just how customer service is directly tied to brand loyalty and some of the business implications or impact that it has. So, three quick pillars here. A lot of people ask, what is the value of a satisfied customer? Some of you might think it's obvious, but truthfully, a satisfied customer, they bring this loyalty and this increased customer lifetime value and probably even word of mouth in most cases. So when a feedback loop is there, customers, they're more likely to be satisfied and really become that advocate that I think we're all shooting for. Now, if you reach that advocacy level, they won't just come back to buy again, but they might buy at a higher price, or they might recommend a product to a friend, or the list goes on and on. What have you seen, Aaron, from your customer base when it comes to this concept, this feedback loop or advocacy? Have you guys been able to nail that down and see it grow your business?
Yeah, I think it's been something that's worked really well for us, and the end result is an incredibly high level of engagement from our customers. They feel connected to us from the minute they start filling out that consultation, and it trickles down into, the community, and like I said, just how engaged they are, how willing they are to, post a review or share on social, maybe send us a love note or a thank you note, send us a selfie. We get a lot of happy hair day selfies, which is really
Yes.
fun, and my team gets to be on the front lines of receiving those, which is really wonderful. Just like a really quick example is, we had a customer who we were able to work with her and perfect her formulas, and she sent us a photo of her hair getting sworn in local government, and you could tell that she felt so proud and so accomplished and so confident, and it's really meaningful to see, and meaningful that our customers are so willing to share that information with us and with the larger Prose community.
Wow, wow. How have you been able to kind of, now I'm trying to steal secrets from you for my own life here, but every once in a while, businesses, they'll get some good feedback from customers. They may not get selfies like you're talking about, but they get some good stuff in comment forms, social pictures, etc. How have you been able to then really amplify that or put it out to your audience? Are you mostly just using social channels? You putting it on your website? They're mostly just putting it on their social channels, and then you're trying to amplify that. Like, how have you taken that and made it, get it out to even a broader audience so people hear it and see it and taste it and touch it?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's customers who are sharing things on their own social channels, and we try to do a good job every week of rounding those things up, both internally and externally on our social channels, just so we can kind
Yeah.
of share the Prose praise, as we like to call it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something I think all of us can do a little better. So actually going through and trying to round up some of those and make it part of your brand as well as their own. Um, let's dive into this point here. A lot of people talk about customer service as a revenue driver, but how does it actually impact the bottom line? And maybe why should you think about it as a revenue driver, not really a cost center? That's one of the things as I've talked to pros and some of these other modern retailers, that line is just so resonating. It's not a cost center. We're thinking about this as a revenue driver, a differentiation, etc. So here's some of the ways that it can really impact your revenue. So with bad customer service, customers will leave your brand for the competition, and obviously that's lost revenue. So the average consumer, they say they've sworn off a lot of brands due to bad customer service. I think we've seen some of those stats. Couple of these other things. One is your bad service could also create, truthfully, bad PR, meaning a brand reputation hit. One of the stats I'd seen out there is 54% of customers will post an online review and 41% will complain on social media after they have a bad customer service. Aaron, maybe I can just get your quick feedback on this one. I mean, we just talked about the great feedback. What if you do, and hopefully you don't get a lot of it, but if someone kind of mentions some feedback on one of the different channels that isn't as positive as you'd like, how have you been able to internalize that and make a change or get back to them quickly or just address the problem in, as a professional way as possible?
Yeah, I mean, it happens to every brand, no matter how many positive reviews you have, you're gonna get a negative one every now and then too. For us, we definitely don't shy away from them. We try to look at them as areas of opportunity, so we want to make sure that we get back to those customers just as quickly as possible, and that they really feel heard. We try to have a lot of the conversation as publicly as possible, so it doesn't look like we're trying to sweep something under the rug, or kind of shy away from the negativity. And then luckily enough, we have some really cool systems in place, which I'll touch on in a little bit, that allow us to really capture customer feedback, especially as it relates to our products and our formulas, that allow us to build on what customers say that's constructive, and ultimately optimize their experience.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's funny because that is, it's becoming more obvious, but it still is hard to grapple. It's like if there is a problem in the public, I loved your point. We try to address it kind of in the public and be it as professional as possible. We don't try to hide it and sweep it. We just deal with it out there and make it great.
Yeah, it happens to everyone, and we want everyone to see that we're quick to respond to it, and we're happy to help.
I love that. I love that. This one jumps out to me, that kind of higher price point there, box number 3. I think that's kind of the opposite side, right? So conversely, 74% of customers are saying they're willing to spend more money for exceptional customer support. This seems like one that you guys have been able to nail down. Do you mind touching on, from your customer base, what the situation is when it comes to premium beauty products?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, our price point is a bit more premium. It skews a bit higher, but we found that that is really, it works for us for a couple reasons. The level of customization and personalization that we're able to offer our customers, our incredibly high quality product and elevated product development experience, and again, that one-on-one really high touch customer support is kind of why our customers are willing to pay that slightly higher price point.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense, and I think you guys deliver that value, so they're willing to do it. All right, well, let's dive a little deeper into Prose, and then we'll touch off on personalization here to end it. Let's have you dive into some real life examples on how this Prose company has been able to really incorporate customer feedback and drive success. So let's dive in. Maybe you can start. You touched on this briefly, but let's go a little deeper into kind of who Prose is and some of the things you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Gabe mentioned, I mentioned this earlier, but we are, the most personalized beauty brand in the world. When I mentioned our consultation, all of our customers fill that out, and the end result is a formula that is completely customized and unique to the customer. There's 135 different factors that go into that, and when you take that amount of factors combined with the number of ingredients that we have, combined with the number of products that we offer, we're able to produce about 50 billion different formulas, which is kind of crazy.
Wow. That is true customization right there. That is true customization.
Truly, it is. I can't even count that high. So to tell you a bit more about us, we have 7 totally personalized products: our shampoo, our conditioner, our pre-shampoo mask, and then our very rapidly growing styling line. So we have a customized hair oil, a dry shampoo, a leave-in conditioner, and a curl cream that launched earlier this week. And all of this kind of it makes us the most personalized beauty brand in the world, and also the largest, which is a really unique position to be in.
Yeah, congrats. I did not realize that. One question that just came in, Aaron, I think it is interesting. This one came in from Ashley. On that form that you've mentioned out a couple times, how have you gotten? It sounds like people are giving a decent amount of information up, and they don't have a real deep relationship potentially at that point with Prose. Are there certain things you've done to help that form be filled out and get people to convert and actually fill out the questions versus fill out a couple and then bounce out fairly quickly? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've tried to kind of ease that experience. Like I mentioned, it's an extensive conversation. So kind of all throughout the process, you'll find different tips and tricks from our experts on how to answer a particular question so you're not hung up on it, or how, if you're kind of between hair types, how we suggest you might select your hair type. So ultimately, you're not too stuck on any question, and you can, answer it correctly to get the right formula for you.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so that's a little bit about Prose and some of the things you guys are doing. I didn't realize some of those stats. Man, that is crazy. 50, those are some big numbers. Let's dive into this. I think you call it the Review and Refine program. Is that right?
Yeah.
Walk us through how this works. We touched on a little bit, but this is a good visualization of it, I think.
Yeah, this is something that's relatively new to us. Our first iteration of this technology launched in 2019, and it is really meant to be a platform for our customers to come back to us after they've used their products and tell us what worked and what didn't. So about 4 weeks after you receive your products, you're prompted to come back to our site. You can find it organically before then, and you're able to tell us, oh, my hair was more manageable or less frizzy, or, you know, my dandruff issues weren't fully addressed. My scalp might still feel a little bit tight. I want to, you know, try a different fragrance, kind of anything between those points. And we're able to take all of that, capture that feedback, and offer truly optimized formulas available for that customer to order in that moment. So it's a really great example of how we're able to take really tangible feedback and apply it in real time to the customer's experience.
Wow, wow. So it just that last part, it is basically a real time based on the way they've kind of feedback and said stuff to you. Then, oh wow, got it. And the feedback from I mean, it sounds like it's newer, but the feedback from the audience has been pretty positive so far, I assume.
Yeah, our customers love it. I think it's a really interesting tool and a really wonderful way to, you know, you don't often find brands who are so willing to get your feedback, whether positive or negative. And this is something that we're, you know, just asking our customer base, how did you like your formulas? We want to know, we want to improve them or not. Maybe just we're going to make a small change to them in real time.
Got it. And how long after again do you typically do this? This is normally
It's
when do
about
they
4
hit?
weeks.
About 4 weeks after. Got
Yeah.
it. Then that's a long enough time to really understand the product, see the results, and then you're able to continue the relationship based on the feedback. Oh, I love it. That makes tons of sense. All right, well, let's continue. One more piece I wanted to hit on with you. This is a big buzzword in the space, you know, personalization. But it seems like it has become a word that is talked about, but I don't know if it's executed on in certain areas as well as certain brands would like. But I think you guys in particular have been able to do this both in a product and in a service. I like this quote. It says, you know, customers no longer want to be treated like a problem that needs to be solved. They want to be treated like a human being that the brand really cares about and has a relationship with. Here's a few ways we've seen brands thinking about, you know, just how do you actually do that? How do you start to personalize some of your interactions? So first and foremost, this kind of relevant interactions. If they bought something with you in the past and are already inquired about an issue, I think they expect that brand to know that and talk to them accordingly. Imagine if you're you know, having a conversation with a friend, but not having a memory of any interaction you've ever had with them in the past. That's, I think, sometimes, I know I feel that way, certainly as a customer, and it just feels, I don't know, robotic. It feels a little bit distant. So that'd be one. Second, they definitely want this personalization. They don't want to be, you know, customer number 537. They want to be, you know, Jane Smith, who prefers to chat via email and has, you know, a certain type of interaction with you in the past. So those are two. The last one I probably throw out there is that helpful and frictionless interaction. Man, every customer wants their problem to be solved as quickly as possible, but they don't want to repeat themselves. They don't want to get differing solutions from different reps. As you hear that list, Aaron, anything kind of stand out to you that you guys have either run into or maybe some of the things you've approached it to make sure that you are able to give relevant, personalized, or helpful interactions?
Yeah, I mean, I think this list really rings true. Like, this is how you provide gold standard customer service in this age. For us, the two that really stand out is this idea of personalized, helpful interactions. That's kind of the core of what my team does at Prose. You know, personalization is our bread and butter, so we need to deliver on that standard when we're talking to customers about, you know, my package didn't arrive, or I need to help, you know, I need help refining my formulas. We need to be able to have a really their information at our fingertips, which is something customer has helped us with, to really guide that conversation to a successful place.
Yeah. Do you feel like, and this will probably be in line with this, has there been some ways that even in your own business where you've found roadblocks and maybe been able to overcome them, but it comes to, God, man, if we could just do this one extra thing, or we found if we could, be that channel switching you had mentioned before, God, once we did that, we felt like our customer service game really jumped up. Seems like a lot of people run into roadblocks when it comes to personalization. Anything
Mhm.
you've run into that you've been able to kind of overcome, and when it comes to personalizing that customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think a really big one is this idea of overwhelmed agents. Something that we really pride ourselves on is the ability to have a very long conversation with a customer that's filled with, really educational, helpful information. And that can take a bit of time. And sometimes, it could potentially lead to my team being super overwhelmed. We've been able to put workflows in place to help mitigate that. So we have the right people answering the right information. So, we have people who are really knowledgeable about, all of our operations and delivery times and what a normal USPS delivery is, answering those inquiries still at a really high standard of personalization using all the information that we have access to, while kind of separating out into a different workflow what is some of the higher touch, higher value things that agents should be working on, so they can kind of take the time to do that. And by
Well,
separating out those workflows, we've prevented people from being too overwhelmed with the kind of standard that we've set in terms of service.
got it. So that is, it's almost kind of a routing capability, right? Where you're saying,
Yeah.
we've got some of these little more low touch kind of deflection comments about the shipping times, et cetera. We're able to push those to a certain group or certain individuals, and then some of these more high touch, we go to a different group. Have you tried to match experience levels with that, or how do you match the right agents then with those kind of right type of queries? Has that been something you guys have thought through?
Yeah, it's definitely about experience level. Something that is had been a challenge for us in the past is this idea of, just breadth of knowledge. So my team needs to be super knowledgeable and have the relevant and right information when it comes to our algorithm or to our consultation or our ingredients. And that's not something that you can teach someone overnight. You kind of need to have practice and training and see things happen in real time and be able to ask questions about it. So we do kind of route our more
Yeah.
logistical questions or operational questions to people who maybe haven't been on the team for a super long time or just haven't been able to put in the hours to learn those things. And we build to, being able to walk someone through the review and refine feature that we looked at a few slides back, or to be able to people who are not able to speak about allergies or ingredients or something like that that requires just a more, knowledge base.
Yeah, fascinating, fascinating. I feel like this one's a little bit overlooked. People, matching the right question to the right person, call it routing or, scoring, et cetera, is it can make all the difference. And it dovetails, now you're talking about training and expertise, but it sounds like when it comes to that overwhelmed agent, this load bearing workflow kind of routing capability has been a big differentiator in that. I think I'm glad we touched on that. This personalization, and maybe we'll end with this, Aaron, but you guys, I think, have been able to not just do personalization, but you've done it both with the product and the service. I think sometimes people think of this just from a service standpoint, how do we make sure we personalize that interaction? But you guys have really brought the product in so that it almost feels like it's personalization again, both kind of on the product delivery as well as on the service you provide. Maybe touch on this briefly on the balance that you've found on bringing kind of this extra personalization to your audience.
Yeah, so I mean, as I've touched on many times, personalization is something that is so apparent in our product from the moment you get on our site. So we really need to deliver on it both in terms of product delivery and then, on the support side of things too, when maybe something doesn't go wrong. So just to touch on product, the physical product for a moment, we take the time to every box has a leaflet in it with your name on it and specific instructions and ingredients that are completely unique to the blend in the bottle, to the information that you provided us in your consultation. And just like a fun little touch, all of our products have your name on the label, so it really feels like something that was hand bottled for you. And then on the service side of piece, what happens when maybe something doesn't go right or a customer has a question, that's really where my team is able to shine. So at our core, we really believe on my team that hair is so personal. I like to talk to my team about I don't know if you've seen the most recent season of Fleabag, but there's a scene in that show where two
I'm waiting.
characters
I have
confront.
seen it. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for which episode.
Yeah, there's two characters confront a hairstylist about a really bad haircut, and they say, hair is everything. We wish it weren't, but it is everything. And that's
Yes.
kind of, something that I jokingly kind of talk to my team about a lot. Like that's what our customers are expecting. They're expecting everything from us. So we've really put a lot of work in trying to deliver on that expectation. So when you contact us, whether it's on social or it's in a text or an email or what have you, we really focus on giving you one person who you're going to talk to about the questions or concerns that you have. And kind of like we
Oh,
talked about a little bit before, there's no need to catch up on something that happened, 2 weeks ago or, 2 months ago, we understand and we're able to kind of catch up very quickly. We don't rely on the customer to tell us that. We have, and the result is that we're having really in-depth, very, personal, sometimes emotional conversations with our customers about their hair and their formulas and just like their overall experience. It's not uncommon for us to have, exchanges that are, weeks or months long. I think our record is almost a 2-month long exchange, which is not because we weren't providing the right information, but it was just building on a customer's question or I want to talk a little bit more about this. Customers felt very trusting of us to come back to us and talk more about their hair and their scalp, really personal things. It's not uncommon that customers come back to us and say, your customer service was impeccable. Like the fact that you were knowledgeable and committed to helping me through this process is the reason that I chose to stay with your brand, and I'm so happy that I did.
yes.
Um,
Um, Couple of follow-up questions on that, and
yeah,
this will also feed a couple of the audience questions here as well, Bart in particular. But that you mentioned in there, and this is obviously this is a frustrating thing for consumers. I don't know if you've been able to get around this, but I do call in sometimes, and I get obviously different agents. It's one day I get this person, one day that person. Um, are you trying to get to a place where you're managing around that to where when someone kind of reaches out, they are rerouted to someone they've already talked to? Or have you just gotten it down pat enough that it almost feels like the same person because you kind of have that timeline ability to keep that dialogue just going over days and weeks and months?
yeah, so it would definitely be the first. We're working to a place where, we're able to route back to the original
Oh,
person
man.
who had that
Oh my
conversation.
goodness, that is
Um,
crazy. That's
because
awesome.
ultimately I don't want my team to be carbon copies of each other.
Yeah.
It shouldn't feel like you're talking to the same person, even though you're talking to so many different people. They should have a personality and a different point of view. Um, but rather, like if you have a connection to me, you should come back to me every time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Any thoughts on, um, Yeah, wow, that's super impressive. Any thoughts on the ability to do that? I mean, you have a couple people writing in and being like, how is she doing, how is she doing that effectively? Any quick tips or secrets?
I mean, really, we've been using the tools that customer has given us to really route things efficiently back to the correct person. Um, Obviously, it's not always perfect. People go on vacation, people take days off, so there is sometimes other agents having to step in there. But we do our best to keep things kind of in one person's stream of work without too much switching back and forth.
Yeah. That was not meant to be a push for customer, you guys. That was a legitimate question, but thank you for the answer, Aaron. A couple other people just mentioned we do have to highlight this because these quotes, you didn't go through them, but on the left side, if you didn't see that, I couldn't believe how fabulous the customer service was. I wrote in, they didn't have the product. They write me back a month later and they're like, we developed a product for you. I was astonished. I mean, talk about personalization. And then this one, I don't know if it's better or equal, but you've got this one that, I came back from a long day. There was a package on my front door. And if you skip down a little bit, it says the candle and the handwritten note were completely unexpected. How do you do that? I mean, are you automate? Is someone putting a legitimate handwritten note in there? Or is that an automated handwritten? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm
No,
like, that does feel like that's above and beyond.
it's okay. It is completely personalized. We're not automating a handwritten note. It comes from someone on my team. That person who you had a connection with. So if you and I were conversing back and forth, I might decide I want to send you a personalized handwritten note, and maybe it's a candle, maybe it's a product that we talked about, maybe it's something else, but that comes directly from me, and it's not a carbon copy of a note. I wrote it, I sent it to you, Gabe.
Wow. Yeah, okay. Well, I've been sufficiently impressed. And we're actually done. So this is probably a good place to stop. Aaron, that is just, I mean, it's so fun to see this because it's what we want. It's what we as consumers want. I mean, you're literally taking it to a level, just thinking about all the brands I interact with, and I've been flying back and forth to different places a lot. And it's just that last one, talking to different agents. It's like I literally am on the phone with these people all the time. If I could just call, I've almost said to one of them, I've almost said like, hey, what's your personal phone number? Can I just like call you instead of calling, the
I've
one
done
agent? Because I'm like, I literally call in like twice a week. That just means I'm unorganized in my fly time, but that's a conversation for another time. But I love it. I love the focus on personalization on the brand. I love focus personalization on the product. Let me just leave that with maybe this quick question real quick. As companies try to, go on this journey of where, I don't know how to describe this kind of transformational customer experience you've got to. What is the formula or the couple step process you'd say, guys, if you want to get to where we've gotten, you got to do these three things or focus here or there. Any quick tips you'd leave for the audience?
I think the first thing is maybe a little bit of a non-answer, but what we do might not work for someone else. It's all about finding what the right thing is for the brand or the
Yeah.
company.
Yep.
For us, I think we've had a lot of success, particularly on delivering this personalized support experience, with, first of all, just making sure that we're hiring the right people. We're pretty rigorous in our vetting of candidates. We want to make sure we have people who are empathetic and can really understand where someone is coming from when they're talking about their hair. And then the second piece of it is, that knowledge is power. So we focus a lot on arming the team with the right knowledge. I think I touched on this a few times as well, but we focus a lot on training and making sure that we have the right people who are knowledgeable about, our consultation, ingredients, et cetera, answering the right things. And that ultimately like reads to the customer. It builds a sense of trust. And it also ultimately empowers the team to want to go above and beyond and send that handwritten note too. So it's kind of a blend of all of those things I've found to be the right kind of thing for us, at least at Prose.
Oh, I love it. To your point, you're right. To each their own, but guys, some great principles here, going the extra mile, finding a way to personalize the product and the service in ways that I think most brands aren't doing. So love the talk track, Aaron. Very interesting to hear how you guys have been able to go above and beyond. So appreciate you taking the time. You can learn a little bit more about Prose. We put a little paragraph there, and if you want to see more, you can check that out at prose.com. And then on the customer side, again, being able to enable some of these things that are happening real time to provide that personalized, efficient, and then effortless customer experience. You can check out our personalization guide. We've got a link here. So with that, Aaron, thanks so much again for joining and taking the time to kind of explain what you guys do over there at Prose. And we'll wish everybody else a fantastic day. Thank you.